Hello everybody. Today we are going to be going over our next lesson in our Unit 4, which is going to be wall treatments. Also, I'd just like to pause and say that I just barely found out about the school closure going for the rest of the year, and my heart is very sad, and I miss you all so much, and I hope that you know how much your teachers miss you and love you and wish they could be teaching you right now, because I am just a shell of a human being without you guys. So I hope that your online learning is going the best that it possibly can go. I hope that I'm doing the best I can for you guys, and I hope that you feel like you're still getting things out of this class. And I just want you to know that if you are not a senior and you feel like you want to take this, you want to get more out of this class, you want to be able to do all of the more intense projects and really push yourself as far as an interior design goes, you are more than welcome to take this class again next year. I would be happy to have you again. I feel awful that this is the way that we're ending this year, but I guess we got to stay positive and remember that we're doing the best we can, and I hope you guys all just know how much I miss you. So anyways, let's move on to our lesson for wall treatments, and it's going to be pretty quick, and then you have to take a quiz, which is also a super fast and easy quiz, so this should be way easy for you guys this week. First of all, I was going to ask you guys a question. What are all the different types of wall treatments that you can think of? And you guys would raise your hands, and we would have a nice little discussion, but since we can't do that, basically it's really simple. The different wall treatments are going to be paint, wallpaper, and molding. Paint's going to be your cheapest option. Wallpaper is your second cheapest option, and molding is your most expensive option because it's done with wood. And so we're going to go through all of those with you today. I'm going to teach you different types of tips and tricks with paint, and so on and so forth, and I'll show you lots of pictures and examples, and then you'll take a quiz. So let's start with paint types. First, you have your latex and water-based paint. This does dry very quick, and it is easy to apply with easy cleanup. It's really nice to use this because it's water-based, meaning if you make a mistake, usually water cleans it up. It's good for general painting projects such as walls and ceilings. You do have another option though. It's oil-based. It is more durable, and if you do make a mess, you have to use a solvent to clean it up, so it's a little bit more permanent, but that does make it more durable, so it's up to you. This is really good for trim work because trim takes more abuse over time than walls do. Like baseboards, they're obviously going to take a lot more abuse than your walls because doors hit them and so on and so forth. So it's just up to you what you choose. I always use latex water-based, but if you are a lover of oil-based, more power to you. There are different types of paint finishes. This is actually really good to know and to follow because it definitely affects the finished look of a product, whether you're painting a wall or you're painting, sorry, my dog just ran in. Okay, so either you're painting a wall or painting a piece of furniture, you do have different effects based on how the finished product's going to look. So you have flat, eggshell, satin, semi-gloss, and gloss. And flat reflects very little light. It's and it's the least washable. This one is really popular because people like that matte finished look where there's not a lot of shine to it. And that's totally fine, but I will tell you that I painted a dresser and a shelf with matte black paint last summer, and it looks great. I really like it. However, they are pieces of furniture, and they collect dust like crazy, okay? And so since it collects dust like crazy and fingerprints, it's really hard to make it look and stay clean. So if I were to do that project again, I would choose a different kind of paint. If I wanted it to still be kind of have more of a matte look, I would probably pick an eggshell. But once again, that's just some personal experience that I've had of using flat paint. Your eggshell has a small amount of shine, and it is more washable than flat. Your satin is very smooth. It has a velvety look with a bit more gloss, and it is easy to keep clean. Sorry, I had to pause the video because my dogs were fighting, so I can't remember where I left off, so I'm just going to say that again. Satin is a smooth, velvety look with a bit more gloss, and it is easier to keep clean. Your next one is going to be semi-gloss, and this is used the most in residences. It has a very subtle shine, and it's very washable. So that's the reason why this one's chosen the most, because it's the most practical when it comes to keeping it clean, and it looks good on your walls. And then you have your high gloss. This is the shiniest, it's the most durable, and it's the easiest to clean, but it does show more imperfections on the wall. So like as an example, if you have a little dent in your wall or whatever, high gloss is going to reflect a lot of light, and so that dent would be really easily noticeable in your wall. Whereas if you got like a satin color, it wouldn't be as noticeable. So it just kind of depends on what you want your finished product to look like. I would always recommend semi-gloss. That's usually what I would do, mainly because of my experience with the flat that I dislike a little bit. So it just depends. The way that you can remember this is the amount of shine also, the amount of shine in a paint on a wall, it matches the word, okay? So flat is going to show little to no light. Eggshell, think of it literally, it's about as shiny as an egg. Satin is a very velvety type texture anyways, with the pattern in it, with the texture that it has. Semi-gloss is going to be semi-shiny, and then high gloss or gloss is going to be the shiniest. So hopefully that helps, so you're able to remember that, and you can take that tip/trick with you into the future when you're painting walls and painting furniture. Please always remember this. Paint is darker when it is dry. So you always want to choose a paint color that is slightly lighter than the one desired, because it does dry darker, especially because you'll be adding multiple coats. A really good example of this, or one of the biggest mistakes people make with painting, is the color yellow. Yellow is a very, very, very bright color, and it's obviously always darker and brighter once it's dried. So if you want to do yellow, I would literally pick one, maybe even two colors lighter than the desired color, because when you are finished painting, it will look like the color you want. I remember we painted my sister's kitchen yellow once, and we wanted it to be a light yellow, and we went and picked a color, and when we opened the paint can, it looked like it was cream, and we were really nervous because we were like, oh, I hope this looks the way we want it to look. And once we had the two coats on and it was dried and it was finished, it definitely had that perfect light yellow look that we wanted. All right, let's talk about wallpaper. Now, wallpaper was very, very, very in style when I was a kid and I was growing up. It was like the main way that you decorated a room. I'm going to explain to you guys the house that I grew up in. Okay. Over a series of 12 years, we remodeled this house as the years went on. But when we first moved in, the living room was like the first room you walked in, which was like the sitting room. It was floor to ceiling tan floral wallpaper. My kitchen had salmon tile with pink floor to ceiling wallpaper and tile countertops with cream cabinets. The next room over was our living room, and it had blue carpet and then floor to ceiling blue floral wallpaper. The basement was floor to ceiling tan wallpaper with some kind of like plant on them with brown carpet. My bedroom, it was quite beautiful. My bedroom was it's awful. It was half of the wall was pink. The other half of the wall was sponge painted. It was where you took a sponge and you mixed different colors together, and we chose green and pink. And then in the center of the wall was a border type wallpaper, so like a skinny kind of wallpaper, and it had porcelain dolls on it. So that was my room, and it was terrifying. My brother's room had puppy wallpaper, and my other brother had pheasant wallpaper. So my house was like floor to ceiling wallpaper, and then as we went to go remodel it, as we grew up there, we had to take all this wallpaper off. So I'm a little bit scarred from wallpaper. I never, ever, ever thought that I would like it again and or want to use it. But now wallpaper's back. and it looks really cool and I really like it. So I would not be opposed to using wallpaper in my designs in the future. I'm going to show you guys some stuff that's in style right now that I really, really like. The two pictures right there on the screen. I enjoy both of those a lot. I think they look really awesome. I would not be opposed to putting that in my space. Just do know that when you do want to remodel wallpapered walls, it is a lot of work to take the wallpaper off. So just depends to you if you feel like it's worth it. Here are some examples of some wallpapers that you may see in style. The banana leaf pattern is very popular right now. Basically any floral or plant is very popular right now. Geometric is also really in style. I 100% chose that picture because it reminded me of the Tiger King and something that Carol Baskin would have in her house. And I was like, dunzo, that's definitely going to happen. So there's my Tiger King themed wallpaper. But you have different types of wallpaper, and basically the types, the definition of the type is in the name. So your fabric wallpaper is fabric laminated paper. So it has a soft texture to it. It feels like you have fabric on your walls. Then you have vinyl wallpaper, and it's backed with a vinyl layer and a finish layer. Then you have vinyl coated. It's ordinary wallpaper with a coating of vinyl plastic to make it washable. So honestly, like, the definition is literally in the word. So vinyl plastic or vinyl coating is going to be your vinyl coated wallpaper. Your vinyl layer is going to be your vinyl wallpaper, and your fabric is going to be your fabric kind. And then you have the most popular kind, which is paper. And this is paper printed with a design. That's going to be your cheapest option. So just if you're interested in that in the future. Oh, I also really like that one. That's like a geometric combined with a floral, and I'm really digging it. But here's some wallpaper terminology to help you. Pre-pasted means it's paper with a dry coating of paste that only needs moistened. That basically means that when you put it on your wall and you use water to or a little bit of moisture like a wallpaper solvent, and you put it over the wallpaper and it glues it to your wall. That's the kind I always had when I was a kid. Then you have strippable. This is paper that can be stripped off the wall without scraping or steaming. This is going to be your easiest kind of removable wallpaper. You can just find a corner and rip, and it usually comes off. Your pre-pasted, it comes off kind of like if you were to unglue a picture, and you're going to leave lots of scraps to it, and that's where you have to scrape it off the wall, and it's super annoying. I remember the room that I was explaining to you guys, the one that had the blue carpet and the floor-to-ceiling blue wallpaper. I had to scrape that off with a butter knife, and it took me and my siblings and my parents about a solid week to get that room done, and it was exhausting. So strippable is definitely a way you'd want to go. Then you have scrubbable. This can withstand repeat wet cleaning. So maybe if you have like kids or whatever and they make a lot of mess, they touch their walls with their dirty hands or they draw on them and that kind of stuff, a scrubbable would be a good option for you. Keep things clean if you have pets too. A single roll contains about 36 square feet, and a double roll is the equivalent of 2 single rolls. So what is that? 72 feet. So it just depends on how much space you're wanting to cover is how many rolls you need to get. A pattern repeats is how often the pattern is repeated. So as an example, if you look at the picture on the left, the pattern repeats would be how often you see the hexagon and the flower. So I don't really want to count those, but it's just how many times you saw that would be how much the pattern repeats. And it can be measured vertically or horizontally. And then you have your run/die lot number. This just means a single run of colors or a single production, and die lots shades may vary. And then you have your border. That's the kind of wallpaper I had in my room that had the porcelain dolls. It was a border wallpaper because it was skinny. And you could either put that on the top of your walls, the middle of your walls, I guess if you want to, the bottom of your walls. But that's a narrow piece of wallpaper, and it can be pasted over coordinating wallpaper or a painted surface. So the wallpaper, what it did is it separated the... Gosh, describing this room makes me sad. What it was is how I told you half the wall was pink and the other half was sponge painted. So the bottom half was pink, then you had the border of the porcelain dolls, and then the top was the sponge painted. So that was how our room was separated, and it was just... Maybe that's why I am the way I am. Is because I had porcelain dolls staring at me every single night when I slept. Maybe that's why I'm a little dark and twisted. Who knows? Okay. So this is my favorite kind of wall treatment. This is called molding. And it's strips of shaped wood used for trim or ornamentation in a room. And I am obsessed with molding. I love it so much. I'm actually in the process of doing a DIY project in my living room in my apartment right now that's going to do some molding, and I'll show you a picture of what I'm doing. So you have different types of molding, and this example right here, where the lines and the circles are the different types that we're going to talk about. There are 4 types that we're going to go over. And our first type is a chair rail. This is my least favorite one. I don't really like it. It's a little outdated, but it's not, I don't think it's ugly. I just probably wouldn't opt to put this in my house. It's a trim that runs horizontally about 3 feet from the floor, and it's kind of like the height of a chair. That's how you can remember it. I'll show you some pictures of that. I definitely don't hate this, and I wouldn't, like, if I went to go buy a home and it had it in there, I wouldn't be like, ew, gross, I'm not buying this house. But if I were to go and put molding in my home on my own, I probably would not choose a chair rail. Here's an example. A chair rail is also, it's very common to do a chair rail to separate colors of paints. As you can tell in this space right here, the top color is a lighter beige and the bottom is a darker beige, and the chair rail separates it. So if you wanted to do something like that, you could use a chair rail to help transition this color a little bit easier. Here's another example. It's lighter on the top and darker on the bottom. Very popular choice. Okay, and then I love crown molding so much. It's a wide trim that's used on the walls next to the ceiling. The way you can remember this is it's like the crown of your head, so like the top, and so it's molding on the top of the wall. It is usually more expensive than base molding and things like that. So it's usually an added cost. Like if you're building a home, if you want crown molding in there, it's going to cost you more. It's just an extra thing, and it's really pretty, but it's definitely not necessary. Here's a picture of a very, very extravagant crown molding with a lot of dental trim going on in there. You can look at that if you like that. Here's my favorite kind of crown molding. I like a little bit more simple, basic kind, but I think this is really pretty in this bathroom. Okay, and then you have base molding. That's known as a baseboard, and so they're very common. I think you kind of have to have them in your space or it looks a little weird. It's a trim used on walls next to the floor, and you guys all have seen baseboards. You know what they look like, but that's an example of a baseboard. Here's a picture of a baseboard. And here is a picture of a very, very wide baseboard on the left that I like. It's a little bit taller. The picture also shows crown molding. And then obviously the next one is a picture of crown molding and base molding as well. Okay, and then you have, this is my absolute favorite, and this is what I'm working on my DIY project in my living room right now. This is called wainscoting, and it is an area of decorative wooden paneling on the walls. So it's the example that you see on the stairs in that picture. I'm going to show you lots of pictures since this is my favorite one, but I really, really like wainscoting. Here is an example of some elaborate wainscoting, and it's got, you can also see the crown molding is very elaborate as well. It's very, very pretty. I like the geometric pattern in there. Here is the examples of what's really popular right now. This one's really, really big. The picture on the left is an example. People are doing this as accent walls. About 10 years ago, accent walls were very, very popular that you would do with just paint. Like, I remember my entire house had accent walls when I was a teenager because it was very, very popular. My parents' room, as an example, all of their walls were cream, and then their back wall where their bed was like a dark plum. My sister had the exact same thing. This was brown, and colors mixed with brown are very popular too. My sister had all of her walls were turquoise, and her back wall where her bed was a chocolate brown. In my room, all of my walls were cream, and then the back wall where my bed was like a sage foresty green. And this is how all of my houses were. It was very popular. The accent walls kind of come back, but a little bit different, where it's still all the same color as the room, but like maybe an accent wall has wood paneling, like wainscoting like this. It's a very popular choice, and that's what I'm actually doing in my space, but I'll show you the picture of what I'm doing. The next picture with the green is floor to ceiling wainscoting. That's green. Here is a picture. I'm obsessed with black wainscoting. I love it so much. But here's one of the accent wall being the bed, behind the bed, and then the next one being on the wall. And then here's a picture of some very elaborate wainscoting. It depends if it's a little bit more of a Victorian type look. The next one shows it going up the wall where the stairs are, back to those squares. I do like the square look a little bit more. Here's what I'm doing in my space. However, my living room is very small, so I'm painting it white. But here is the easy and cheap way to do it. If you were to do it like have a professional do it, they're going to come put this wood paneling up on actual pieces of wood. Here is how you do it, the cheap version. You do your pattern out with like 2x4s and you nail it all in your pattern that you would like, and then you obviously have to nail that all in, and then you have to caulk the edges to make sure it's nice and pretty, and then you have to do like putty and where the nails are and sand it so it's nice and smooth. And then you just paint the whole thing the same color. So you have the wall behind you, instead of having wood paneling on that wall, you just have the wood strips, and then you paint it and it looks like you have full-on wainscoting. So here's an example of the picture on the right side is the before, and the picture on the left is the after, painting it black. This is exactly what I'm doing in my space. However, I'm painting it white because my living room is small and it doesn't have any windows. I didn't want to do black because I feel like it would be too dark and it would bring the space in a little bit more. So I'm going to lighten it up by doing it white. And then the rest of my walls are going to be like this. It's already painted agreeable gray, so it's a very light type beige. And then the white wall will be the accent wall. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. And you don't have to do this assignment. And then after you guys do this lesson this week and take the quiz, we'll be going over window treatments and lighting next, which will finish out Unit 4.